we all have dreams, big and small, that create a life in our minds different than our reality. All the while, we watch others seemingly make it happen. I'm Rachel Denson, a farm girl turned mortgage guru, moonlighting as your self-help cheerleader. Together, we'll pull back the curtain with intentional conversations and discover how you get there. Hey everybody, welcome to How You Get There. Do any of y'all have a past romance gone wrong that was awful itself, yet the person and the choices you made in that relationship serendipitously connected you with people who directly changed your life for the better? Well, mine brought me Stevie Nicks, not the singer, the cat, but my guest Makayla's story is one for the books. Her bad romance led her to a cross-country move and ended with her feeling as if she'd lost herself along the way. But now she's on the other side with a career she loves and a village of friends who've turned into her family. She's here to tell her story and join me for reflections centered around the silver linings of all romances gone wrong. Makayla, welcome to How You Get There.
Hi, everyone. Rachel, thanks so much for having me.
You're so
This
welcome.
story is a complete roller coaster, but I really wouldn't have it any other way. Before I dive into the nitty and gritty, I want to give you all a little bit of background context on me. And I'm also going to spoil the ending just for all the people who don't stick around for the end of the story because it is, kind of a happy ending and it's just a crazy roadmap of getting there. Yeah, the story starts June of 2020, but there's a major turning point in June of 2022, and that's, almost a year and a half ago. I'm going to spare the details for later, but this is when I was really given a fresh start. I got out of my toxic relationship. I quit my job. I got a new job in real estate full time. I moved, bought a car, and I just found a sphere of people around me, friends and coworkers within my brokerage who have been right by my side through this healing journey over the past year and a half. For myself, I really had to find my purpose and get to know myself all over again after this relationship gone bad. That wasn't easy, but I've definitely come a long way. I'm happy and I'm healthy and I've just a successful career today that I absolutely love and will hopefully do for the rest of my life. And I feel like a lot of 21-year-olds can say that. So I'm really extremely blessed and thankful for that. I'm in a happy relationship today with a guy who is, for lack of a better word, perfect for me. And so that's great. And yeah, that sphere of people I now consider family, and I know I could call them day or night, real estate related or not, and they'd have my back. So that is just, the major things that have kept me here and started to make this place feel more like home.
I love that.
Home.
I love that. Well, but how you got there is pretty wild. And how we ended up being here was because I just casually was like, "So, how'd you get to Paducah from California?" And you said, "Well, this is the story." It was like 5 seconds and I was like, "Oh my gosh. You've got to talk about this with me on the podcast." Because I did see Makayla thriving. We were at an open house that she was hosting. I was co-hosting with her. So I obviously saw this successful young woman, knew what she wanted out of life, doing the thing. And to hear all of what she went through was really inspiring and also just pretty freaking crazy about just how her bravery through it all too, that despite maybe some questionable choices that we reflect back on, nonetheless, all of it took guts. And that is what I talk about a lot on here, is just a lot of things start with just courage. So Makayla, will you take us back to 2020 and tell us what was going on in your life when you had just graduated high school? And
Yeah. So, short disclosure, this is just going to be a summary of what happened. It's only my side and perspective. Other people might remember it differently, and that's okay. I'm not going to speak bad about anybody with ill intentions. It's,
sure,
me and the ex who's involved in this story, we just really brought out the worst in each other. That's the honest, straightforward opinion. But a relationship takes two, so I don't blame him for the outcome at all. There's 1,000% things that I would have done differently, and a lot of things that I'm not proud of, but I really don't regret any bit of it because I've learned so much and it's made me a better person today. But I was born and raised in Southern California on an Air Force base, so very structured. I was very much the good kid in the family, good grades, very involved. And
Uh-huh.
I always dreamed of like the true college experience. So in June of 2020, I graduated high school, turned 18, and was getting ready to move to Boulder, Colorado for college. But over the summer, this is COVID time. So I'm just hanging out with a few friends and we're having a girls' day and I decide to download Tinder. Just for fun, was not looking for a serious relationship or anything like that. And I probably got 10 swipes in and I matched with my now ex.
Little did you know then what 10 swipes in we're going to get you into. I love it.
Yes. And so after that, I really put the app away, did not pick it up again until in August, I moved to Boulder. I'm in a room with a bunch of girls who are strangers and they get on Tinder and they're, looking at who's around this college
Checking
campus.
out the newbies of their distant sphere.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I have that app. So I go on it and I see a message from 2 months ago from X, and he says sup, S-U-P. Oh my gosh, if that is not an initial red flag, I don't know what is.
You know, not a lot has changed even since like 2009 when people were first just getting on Facebook. I love that some things have stayed. Like we've made so much progress, yet the initial intros are not getting any more eloquent. I love it.
I mean, that just shows like the lack of effort from the beginning.
It's a summary.
We just start conversating, over socials.
Sure.
I'm living the very typical college freshman experience.
Yeah.
Like I said, very structured military brat. So I took the freedom that I had in college, states away, and I ran with it. And he very much saw that over social media.
Sure.
So December, I go back home to California where I originally matched with him because
Hmm.
he was stationed there. He was in the Air Force because I grew up on that Air Force base. But we met and we were just getting to know each other. And, I just, started to develop this crush for him. And he was not about it at first. He was very low commitment.
Hmm.
And the next month rolls around, January, and I pulled the, what are we conversation, and we decide to make it official. And I go back to Boulder, Colorado, in a serious, committed relationship. Mind you, over the past few months, there's been a lot of initial red flags. This is not, a healthy relationship to start with.
Okay.
So February comes around. I've only been in Boulder for about 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and we're fighting off the charts. We're on the phone with each
Already.
other. Yes, we're on the phone with each other 20 hours a day. I'm not partying. I'm not doing any of the social things that I did the previous semester because of this relationship.
You were literally like you told me offline, like you would fall asleep on the phone.
Yes, I would fall asleep on the phone with him and wake up the next morning and still be on the phone with him. I know, crazy, crazy.
And then you were on the phone in class too.
Yes, because all of our classes were virtual. We weren't having them for
I
classes at the time.
forgot. Yes, because it's still pandemic. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah,
Yeah, so I'd put my laptop here and he'd be on the phone right
just
there. And
like painting the picture, literally, you're not exaggerating when you say you were on the phone with him constantly.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were fighting because of course you spend that much time around someone you're gonna fight. This was more than it should have been. But we blamed it on the distance and the separation.
Mm-hmm.
So for Valentine's Day, he buys me this flight back to California and I'm
Mm-hmm.
there for like 5 days, don't even see my parents. And we fight when I'm there. And so it's clearly not a separation issue. We're just bad for each other,
Right.
right? Go back to Boulder,
Mm-hmm.
March. March comes, we're fighting because of the separation, and he comes to Boulder and for a few days, and then again we fight. So there's an
A
underlying
theme.
issue. Yeah. And so we're just kind of going through spring. My parents become fully unsupportive of this relationship. And mind you, they're kind of funding me through college. So we come up with this plan that he's, getting out of the Air Force and he wants to go home for the summer. He's like, "Oh, you should come with me." And I'm like, "Okay." And then we're gonna go back to Boulder after. He's gonna move to Boulder, Colorado. I even start, looking at houses with friends. And as my parents grew more and more unsupportive, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just lost a little bit of respect for them through all the arguments, and I really didn't want to be attached to them too much longer. I decided, I'm not going back to Boulder the next semester.
Because you're not gonna, your financial ties for education broke,
Hmm.
so you just decide you're gonna let go of that anyways. Got it.
So we decide that, going to Kentucky is going to be more of a permanent move. So at the end of the semester, I get myself back to California and we pack up and drive for 4 days to Paducah, Kentucky. No plan, no jobs, nowhere to live, nothing.
Did you know where like Kentucky was on the map of the United States? She's shaking her head no for our podcast listeners. If I were from California, I mean, I can see like why would you need to know where Kentucky is? It's just like somewhere over there, you know.
I had a friend in college who was from Kentucky, and so we actually had a really funny conversation about it with him on the phone next to me because he was always on the
Oh,
phone.
always look, always it's like that Monsters
I'm
Inc. You
listening,
know,
you know?
that lady always watching.
Yeah. And I was sitting there, I was like, I don't even know what Kentucky is. I don't know where Kentucky is. And he took it to heart. And he was like, I don't think you should move. And eventually he, got over it. But
So you drive 4 days to Kentucky, no plan,
no,
no living, no job.
nope. And my parents and my family, were really shocked because essentially I was throwing away everything I ever wanted. The only thing I ever wanted since I was a little girl was to go have this amazing college experience. This boy comes along and all of that changes. So yeah, they're concerned and they're worried, but I'm just like, I don't really care. It's my life. I'm gonna go and do what I want. Not to mention my grades were awful at the time in college. So yeah, we get to Kentucky in that's early May. In June, we're just bouncing between his family. We find an apartment in Paducah. I find a job in Lone Oak, and immediately I'm working like 50 to 70 hours a week because the other girl, who was supposed to be like my co worker, but that was okay. I was fine working because I didn't have anything better to do. I didn't have friends. I didn't know anyone. Closest person I knew was in North Carolina. So that was fine.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's not working. So when I'm not working, it's just us two spending all of our time together, going through
In
this
your
transition.
apartment.
Yes.
Mhm.
Not doing anything, not exploring all the great things of Kentucky like, we probably should be.
What was the sell on the plan is already not being executed.
Yes, because he told me, if you move with me here, You're going to be everything to me. Like, I'm going to be the best boyfriend. We're going to have a great life. I know you know absolutely nothing about Kentucky, but there's so many great things that we're going to go and do. Not happening. So
No. Okay.
that fall was really rough. But I made a close friend at the spa, and she's
Sure.
now my best friend. Consider her my sister. And I just kind of confided with her as much as I could because I wasn't telling any of my family what was going on. I did not want to tell them that this was going so bad. Just couldn't face them. And I didn't really want to hear, I told you so. And I didn't want to hear them tell me to move back home or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, this was hard because when I moved to Kentucky, that's when I needed him most.
You put all your chips in one basket and
Mhm.
it was not going like you had thought. And it wasn't just like a little bit and it wasn't just for a little bit. I mean, this went on, almost for the rest of the year.
Yes. And he just went into this downward spiral of just like depression and anxiety. And, you know, how much can he really give me if he's not, doing great himself? So I
Sure.
couldn't even get the bare minimum of what I needed. He wasn't helping around the apartment. Things weren't like financially very fair, and he just wasn't treating me well. He never once checked in, like, how is this transition going for you? Are you homesick? Like, are you doing okay? Never. Not once did we have that conversation.
Wow.
So at that point, I just wanted some like respect and appreciation.
Sure.
So I was, you know, slowly detaching.
Yeah. And this is when you're starting, we're like in January of 22 now, and you're starting to mill on the idea of like, I don't want to work at this spa indefinitely. So what about like real estate? And you had liked real estate in California, right? Like that was something a little bit on your radar.
Yeah, it's always just been something that I've kept up with. Like, I always liked HGTV and House Hunters and all that stuff that are totally not the real deal, but it at least interests me.
Yeah.
So in January, I buy my pre-licensing courses for real estate. I
Hmm.
didn't really have a plan with it. I just kind of pulled the trigger randomly.
Sure.
And then the next month is when we kind of broke up.
Yeah.
And I had already decided mentally that it was over, but there was a big argument and I found an opportunity to say it and I did. Yeah.
I'm reading your notes. I'm going to spoil it for her because I just cannot believe here we go again with frickin' Tinder. It says day after we broke up, he downloaded Tinder. Like, I love that, like, Tinder makes a comeback in this story, not in necessarily a great way, but it's like, here we are again with the online dating apps. And this is so Western Kentucky for you because your note also says the same day your friend saw him. I'm like, that's where, I mean, I've never online dated. I'm not sad about that. Like, I commend anybody that puts themselves out there that way because, especially around here, I mean, it's like everybody is, you can't like scuttle around. If you're on
Yeah.
there, everybody knows because there's just like, no, it's a numbers game. There's not enough numbers in this area. It's not populated enough. Oh my gosh.
Gosh, I can't imagine going on there today. I have never since I've been here.
You're done with it.
Yeah,
Tinder
but
has done enough in your life. You're ready to be done with Tinder.
what's crazy is that I hear horror stories about Tinder, and then I also hear amazing stories. Like, one of my best
Yes.
friends, they are married now with kids, and they met on
Yeah.
Tinder. And they're the ones who set me up with my boyfriend now. And like, what a great story.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jason Kelsey and Kylie Kelsey met on Tinder.
Yep. They're
I mean, yeah,
perfect.
no, there are some wins. It's not Tinder's not the issue. Tinder is like a tool. Somebody told me, like a brick. A brick in the right hand can be a foundational block for a very strong house, or a brick in a hand can be a way to break a window. You know,
Yeah.
so it's just one of those things of how you use it. Okay, but enough about this. And again, this is not about anybody but you, Makayla. So you were to the spring, y'all are broken up, But at this point, you still don't have other housing. So that can't be fun.
No. So I didn't have very many options, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do?
Because you didn't know anybody, right? Like you literally had just, for the whole time you've been here, which is like almost a year or over a year now, have
Hmm.
just been working and going home and not having much outside of that. So yeah, I mean, rightfully so.
I'm just thinking about this Tinder thing. I gotta get it out of my head. it was it was such a slap in the face. Like the day after we break up, an old coworker at the spa texts me, just so you know, he's on this. And I'm like, how embarrassing. Anyways.
I love this. This is such a classic thing like that I would do too. Like I'll get 4 sentences in and I'll be like, wait a minute, I'm not done venting about this. I'm not mentally over this trauma we just talked about. Okay, but no, seriously. Well, okay, so you don't have a lot of options.
No, we're just coexisting in this apartment because he would not leave, and I didn't have any other options to go. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to pay out my lease. That
Sure.
would be a waste of money. And I wanted my security deposit back to go and put on another place. So we took through it through June and just coexisted in this apartment together, which was so toxic. Highly do not recommend. Don't do that, people. It was really, really bad. And of course, like crossfire, of just both of us trying to live our lives and arguments all the
But you
time.
know, what a blessing that you did that because you were in the prime position to accept a really generous offer. And this is
Yes,
really, to me, one of the very favorite parts of my story is a hero that in a random act of kindness and like brave generosity, uncommon generosity can really change somebody's life. I mean, that's like to me when you told me this, that's the biggest thing I got out of this. Wow. So I want you to tell us about it.
there is a client at the spa
Mhm.
who was involved in real estate, and I had just purchased my courses, and she was such a frequent client that we were even friends on Facebook. So one day I saw her post something looking for an assistant or a buyer's agent, and that was something I never in a million years thought that she would take on because she was so successful and she had two young boys.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of picking her brain a little bit, but never wanted to be like, hey, mentor me, please. But I saw this opportunity and I went for it. She ended up hiring someone else, which that was okay because there was a little bit of a hesitation with the,
Conflict of interest.
yeah,
Yeah.
because, taking me away from the spa that she goes
Was such
to.
a good patron of. Yeah. I get you.
But months go by and that girl ended up not working out. And she just kind of checked in with me and was like, hey, how are your classes going? And I sent her like a 3-minute long voice memo just saying, well, my classes are kind of on hold right now because I'm kind of going through this life situation that has taken precedence. And I just spilled everything to her. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what I'm doing.
I
And
love
she
it.
was, let me call you. And so she did, and we talked for hours. And she was like, let me make sure it's okay with my husband. But we have a guest house on our property. And I think it would be really amazing if you moved into guest house and you could start training, under me, get your real estate license, be my assistant. She's like, you quit the spa, like this girl isn't really working out as well as I would have liked. And I was like,
Okay.
absolutely, stranger.
I'm
I'll move
telling
in
you
with
though,
you.
all the way though back to when we're sitting here talking about this, like it almost makes me emotional because where would you be if you would have done what the social norm of just saying like, oh, they're going and like didn't actually take the moment to be vulnerable and just say, if you're asking how are things going, I'm actually going to tell you because it totally changed your life.
Yes. like I
A
just
3-minute Tinder and a 3-minute voice memo.
yes. So the little things, go do those little things, people.
Yes.
But yeah, so I moved in. I spent every day with her, just seeing how she operates in this business, and that's how I learned everything that I know. And I've had a completely different experience than any other first year agent because she produces so much and she has so much volume of real estate that I get to see that all day, and
That's
most agents,
amazing.
first year agents don't get to see that. So
Real estate is one of those lines of work that you learn by doing, and you can like the only way you avoid mistakes is by being burned almost, or having somebody else tell you something because they got burned. Really, I think that's a huge piece of it. And I think that's so amazing. And there's so much value to having somebody mentor through that whole process. Like, I think you went about it such an intelligent way for what it's worth. And like you said, I think there's a lot of people that just think, I just am going to hop in and like get help from here or there or whatever. And it's like, it's totally worth the financial investment to actually join forces with somebody that is going to give you value exchange and is going to have a bigger investment in you. And it's not necessarily just a one-way street. So I think that's awesome.
and unfortunately, I did not cut off contact with him immediately because that was difficult. But
Yeah,
everyone actually thought that him and I were going to get back together. Thank gosh we didn't. But months down the line, once I, was fully moved in and, felt like I was in a good spot, I had healed, enough. I finally got the courage to tell my family. And that was way after we had actually ever broken up. But I just really had to prepare myself for all the questions and all the I told you stuff.
absolutely. You had to be through it and ready to take them on and say, yeah, you told me so, but look what I've made for myself.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's the common denominator through this, it is your willpower and your tenacity after you get your mind into something.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, a lot, it probably is pretty common for most people to go back into a comfortable spot, a familiarity, and after a taste of thinking something's going to get better. And it takes a lot of wisdom to know, like, nope. And one of the biggest things, and it's for a couple years, I unfortunately had to tell myself this a lot, and it's a harsh saying, but I do think it's true. And I don't think this means, I guess it's two parters. The saying is, when people show you who they are, believe them, period. And it's like, no buts, no exceptions. Like, no, when people show you who they are, believe them. Now, that doesn't mean don't forgive them. That doesn't mean don't pray for them. That doesn't mean harbor anger like that, and resentment. Like, that's only hurting yourself. But it's like, you can heal, forgive, all those things. But at the end of the day, the reality is you've got to, you've got to believe people. You got to believe them when they show you who they are, and not think that it's going to miraculously change.
Yeah. I'm a big actions speak louder than words person. Like my love language is acts of service. And I've had just a million people who are not blood related to me treat me better than people who are blood related to me. So,
Yeah,
everyone who has my back the most, it's not because they tell me they have my back, it's because
right.
they've shown me. And I know that I can call them, text them, show up on their doorstep any day, and
Absolutely.
they have my back. So,
Yeah. And I think like you can have a relationship with somebody. And essentially, I mean, this goes back to my big thing about boundaries, because you can have a relationship with somebody, let it be whatever that relationship is. But it's like, I know I've caught myself being hurt, having hurt feelings over things. And I'm like, when people show you who they are, believe them. Like, why did I think that this was going to turn out differently? So it's just like, if you can't have the relationship and have the boundary, and if you can't have the relationship with the proper expectations, that's when you get hurt. If you can just take care of yourself and at least say, I got to believe them. I got to believe them. They've shown me, and I'm going to move forward that way, and that is not an easy thing to do, especially when it's cutting out one more person. And already at that point, at first, it was just a small circle you had. But since then, that's so not, I mean, you've built this beautiful life here across the country from where you grew up. And it's fuller in 6 months than it was the first like 18 or so that you were here.
That was really hard for me because it took me a long time to figure out what my purpose here was
Mm-hmm.
without, like, moving home to California was never really an option for me. Like, I never sat there and actually thought about doing that.
Right.
And I sat there in bed crying to myself, falling asleep at night, thinking, why am I here? Like, why in the world did God bring me to Paducah, Kentucky after this failed relationship? And at that point, I was like, I know it's not because of that relationship, but eventually, with this sphere of people that I've found and this amazing career, I'm like, this is the purpose. That's why you're here. I really don't think I would be able to flourish as much as I have here if I were back in California because I have, the chaos and the drama of my family growing up. That's a whole other story. But I think I'm going to reach my highest potential here, not over
That
there.
is amazing.
And I
I
want
love
to
it.
get out of that.
That is just so cool.
Yeah.
Man, how you get there through through Tinder, 10 swipes, a lot, some heartbreak, but you're here. I love it, Makayla. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. It is, I think, just so powerful to remember and to hear others, especially just I know, like, it's a story so different from my own. And I just know I have learned so much even from listening to you and seeing that, like, your bravery through, navigating real estate in a town that you don't know. Like, I know we talked about even that all these coaching classes, like, will tell you, call the people you went to high school with, or, all these things. And you're like, yeah, I don't even have like at first you're like, I don't even have a sphere of influence to call on. And that is so like you're out there doing the thing. And so people that especially like me, I'm talking to myself, they're like work, hustling in my own stomping grounds, like no excuses.
Yeah.
So I think that's just so awesome. And the fact that you didn't give up. I mean, heck yeah.
It's really been a blessing. I mean, to go somewhere new and start completely fresh, I mean, there's just not enough to be said for that. Like, I got to create whatever identity and, version of myself here that I wanted because
Hmm.
nobody knew anything about the prior 18 years of my life. And
Yeah.
I really didn't start appreciating that until a year and a half ago. And I was like, this is my chance to start from scratch. Like, don't ruin it. And it's going pretty well so far.
That is amazing. I love that outlook. I was talking with a friend the other day and he was saying something about like, I've thought about like applying for jobs here or whatever, and it was out of state. And I mean, why don't you? And especially for speaking for people that are in a season of life where they're not having to co decide things either because of relationships or because of children or because of like parents that need them, that they're, if you're in a season of life where you truly look around and like don't have an excuse for staying and you're not you don't feel like you're living with purpose and you're not seeing fulfillment in the same like rinse and repeat, you know, there are a lot of people I think fall in that box and aren't even because it is so it's a work. It is so much logistical work. It's scary. And sometimes I think just like, it's crazy. And I hate that you had the emotional toil that you did. But the reality is sometimes I think that if you can just get yourself to metaphorically just get in the car and start driving across the country, like you're never going to have it all figured out before you leave, you know? So it's like,
Figured out.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess when you're there, you're finally forced to figure it out. And it's an intense end of the spectrum,
Yes.
but it's what a very, very, very few people, I feel like I know at least, would be willing to do. And I'm really glad I got to hear such a cool story from in the best way. You're just ordinary all-American girl working to figure it out and doing it on her own. You know, it's not like you had all this buckets of money that comfortably got you here or like anything like that. You know, it's not like that was something like you had about every barrier you could have,
Yeah.
yet you're here.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely one of the biggest things I learned from it all is just I've always been a big like gut person, intuition thing, like trust your
Mhm.
intuition. And throughout the whole, first year and a half, it was this big
Mhm.
fight with everyone because they're like, you're throwing your life away. But something in me knew that I had to come here. And I don't think that I thought that he was just amazing. Like, I really just knew that this is where I was supposed to be. And now, the people in my life understand that, the ones who saw me through the whole journey. But I definitely lost some friends and some family along the way because they just didn't agree, and that's really sad. But I'll never let myself go through anything like that ever again. Let myself be treated the way I was, or
Mhm.
let a significant other come between me and those relationships.
Mhm.
But like I said, God had a purpose.
Yeah, he's working it through for good. I
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
Okay, so Makayla, we talked and you said that you were over having to give this whole story over and over again in your real life. Like, especially, and I think this has been therapeutic for you to like say your piece in a public way and now you're ready to move on. And like I call myself, your self-help cheerleader, Rachel, push
Yes.
push some ideas onto you about having what's called a proactive boundary. So before I tell you what I've cooked up for you, just if you want to just tell the audience in your own words what I'm talking about, and then I can tell you.
Yes. So this is a really good stepping stone for me. And I'm really glad we're doing this because this is my chance to just kind of put the story out there. It happened so long ago. I just don't think that it really needs to be spoken about much, much more
Sure.
because I'm in such a new chapter of my life and I'm just really ready to close that one. Very grateful for it and the fact that
Mhm.
it got me here. The amount of times where I have to answer the question, oh, how did you get here from California?
Right.
And, there are a lot of people here who know my story. So I don't want to necessarily give a fake one and then
Oh,
there'll be like
absolutely.
two stories floating around out there.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of looking for a way, to almost dodge those questions
Sure.
and just because I don't I don't really want to think about it.
I
You know,
totally
it's not
understand.
important
A
anymore.
few things. One, I love this because one of my other segments, we didn't do it, but it's evolving identity or forever identity. And I think this is a prime example of like you are evolving and this is no longer your identity. Like for a while, you were this girl with this crazy story that moved from California and we're working through this like horrible situation. But you are no longer, that is no longer your story and you're evolving.
And I'm such a different person.
Yes, like you're just ready to be done. And this is coming from a chronic oversharer. So, and I said this to somebody earlier, and I'm like, I mean, yes, I'm a chronic oversharer. Clearly, I created a podcast where large chunk of it is talking about my feelings. So, I mean, I guess it's a positive
I'm
thing.
very much a chronic oversharer.
Yes, okay, so I can relate, but you have to remember, and I'm reading, like I mentioned earlier, this is all coming from the book on boundaries. I think like her little subline is like loving the limits that set you free by Melissa Urban. And she talks about setting proactive, what she calls proactive green boundaries. So they're nice, but they are something you can proactively say. So it's not a response to somebody, but it is a way to make sure somebody knows this is your limit. And it's like, the reality is very few people are going to push and be so untactful to push you past your limit. And if they do, they kind of look like the jerk. And I think that gives you you're in an even better spot to respond a little bit harsher and reinforce the boundary you have proactively set. So what I told you was like, you need to have an elevator pitch that you literally memorize. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is just what you say and be done. For me, I know mine was very simple. Like, when I quit drinking, I did not want to talk. Like, it is accumulation of things that I've never officially shared. And this is funny. I'm like mirroring moments. Now that I have How You Get There, I want to have like a whole thing about it and say my piece and give everybody my thoughts, because I think it's all really insightful, and it's a part of who I am now. But I don't necessarily want to get into it with every Joe Schmo that I run into. And so for me, mine's really short. It's just like, if somebody asks me, I say, "Oh, I don't drink." That's it. That's all I say. I don't say, "Oh, I would love to, but," or, "Oh, I'm not, not anymore." I'm like, "No, and then really, that is like, there's no gray area. And so people very rarely are like bold enough to be like, "Oh, why do you not drink?" And if they do, then I can just basically like say, "Oh, I quit drinking, period."
I don't know who said it to me, but someone was like, if someone asks you, how'd you get here from California? It might have been you.
It
Like,
was
you should
me.
just say a car.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I don't think
I got here, by a car. Or it's like
I'm not
sometimes
that quippy.
sometimes, buyers, when they are interested in a property, they'll ask the listing agent, "Oh, why are they selling?" They're moving.
Right. Like, they
It's
don't,
none
yeah,
of your
they want to
business.
sell. Yeah, I know. I'm that
Like,
person. I would definitely say that too, though. I'm like, I need to know like, why?
yeah. But it's hard for me because people do push. They're like,
Yeah.
"What the heck?" Because there's not a lot of people from California here.
But that's why I think if you have it memorized and it's like that part is at least clockwork, you can use up all of your other like mental gymnastics and your other boundary energy for the next part if somebody's wanting to push it. So, like, what I wrote out for you roughly was, "Oh, I ended up in Kentucky through a twist of fate. And at first was really rough. And I don't like to talk about it, but I'm so proud of the life I've built now." That's what I mean, and it's
Wow.
like, really, like, if especially the whole like, "Oh, I don't talk about it," or that's not even saying I don't like to talk about it. I don't talk about it.
Yes, I
It's
don't talk
like,
about it. Period.
so I think you need to, like, that's your homework. You're gonna say, like, figure out your own words for it, practice it, say it in the mirror, and then like it'll just get to the point where you and especially too, I think the people that you're around, that you're learning in this new life that you have, that don't maybe know your whole backstory, like you said, clear is kind. They hear you say this over and over and over again, and then they're going to realize, like, "Oh, Makayla really means she doesn't talk about it. It's not that, you know."
All the important people in my life know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you
and
don't
if
owe
I have
that to
more,
anybody.
yeah, and if I have more important people come into my life, I'll tell them,
When your
but
time is right for you, it's not
yeah,
about
but
them.
just any random person calling me in like, "California, how'd you get here?" I don't talk about it, but I'm doing great today.
Yeah. And when you can say it in a chipper, like happy, firm, happy, a little
Yeah.
sandwich.
Yep, sandwich it.
I love
Mhm.
it. Well, we're gonna move to a little bit of a lighter segment. It is not one of the normal ones I talk about on the podcast, but I thought, in the spirit of Valentine's Day being just around the corner, I'm calling it "Look Back on Love and Cringe." Just me, because there are specific things that reoccur in my mind that I just shoulder shudder cringe about, like, that I cannot believe, the whole, ugh, that
Yeah.
I'm like, why did I think that that was cute? Oh my gosh. So the one specifically that comes to mind, and this is romance related, is the t-shirts, the constant craft t-shirts that me and my friend group from high school would make. that had our boyfriends' names on the back and like the big number in the front and the back.
So good. Oh my gosh. Did you really have a real high school experience if you didn't do that?
Right. And I was like, by the time I had a boyfriend that I could make a shirt for, I think I was like, had some pin up energy for like needing, like, I'd been watching my friends do this for a couple years. And I was like, now is finally my moment to participate.
And we're going to star in it.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, some FOMO maybe played into it. But and then my mom, she is a waste, what is the saying? Waste none, want none. Like
No, I haven't
she
heard
will,
that one.
I think that's how it goes. She has taken these old t-shirts with these boys' names on the back and cut them up to use them as like rags in her house. So instead of like dusting with a rag she washes, she just like cuts a little strip out of it, dust, and then throws it away. So when I was like cleaning out her house for her to move, I'm like, what?
You're like,
Why is
oh,
this
this
shirt?
looks so familiar.
Oh, but then the extra irony is that 28-year-old Rachel is watching Taylor Swift have a designer, personally handmade, crafted jersey jacket. And I'm like, she is the coolest thing ever. If she wasn't already the coolest person in the whole world, now she is wearing Travis's Kelsey's number as a jacket. And I like it is just like, making the football season for me. And so then I think, okay, you know what? Of course, when Taylor Swift does it, it's cute. 15-year-old Rachel, I'm going to give her crap, but Taylor Swift, I'm going to gawk at it. So, double standard there.
That designer like signed a contract with the NFL.
I saw that. I'm so excited for her.
Like she's just gonna be making merch, for all these players, and that's just like so great because she made it jacket for Taylor Swift, like that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So my look back on love and cringe. I mean, all of it is cringe. Quite literally all of it.
My favorite one is your last one.
Yeah. So sophomore year of high school, I had a really ugly homecoming. So I was just scrolling, probably on like Windsor or Lulu's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this dress looked phenomenal on the model, But this is sophomore year of high school. Bodies are changing, We don't really know what our style is yet. We're looking up to, the seniors
Mm-hmm.
and juniors, trying to figure out what's cool. And I thought this was just going to look great. And honestly, at the time, I really do think I thought it looked great. But it was the most unflattering dress ever. And I don't know what happened to it. I hope it's burning in a hole somewhere.
Yeah, the homecoming pictures, we used to do, I mean, full blown photo shoots. Like groups of 8 of us. Like it was a whole deal. Like, and I have so much respect and admiration for all of our parents that just smiled and like let us do it, because I don't know if I'm going to have enough couth if like I become a parent to not mock my children. Like I think back, about like we just are taking it all so seriously. I cannot believe somebody did not roast us. Like
It's
it's
still
all
that
so much.
today.
It is. Yes, some things never change. It is, and if anything, I think it's more intense because people have more access to like internet ideas. We just had to flip through magazines, you
Yeah.
know. Like I was like looking at 17 and like so gosh, I do love that. Yes, you're right. Both of our look back on love and cringes, they are still existing. So find comfort in the fact that in another 15 years, people that are 15 are also going to look back on love and cringe, I imagine.
Yeah. I want to get her, and I have to tell her all the time. I'm like, don't do that. Don't wear that. Like, You won't like it in 5 years. Don't know.
Yes. I'm that friend that you don't need to ask me if you don't really want to know. Because, and I can say this because Chad does not listen to this podcast. And so he'll never know this story. I would say this to his face. He like will call me before a big meeting. Like I'm talking 3 minutes before, be like, does this look okay? And I'm like, it's 3 minutes before you're supposed to walk to this dinner. Like, like you are setting me up to be the bad guy. What am I supposed to say? Like, no, it looks bad. You're wrinkly. Like, cause he can't do anything about it. But it takes me so much willpower to be like, yeah, it looks good because it doesn't look bad. But like, also, if I had a ability to fix it, I would. So I'm like, don't ask me stuff and put me in this corner to like,
To lie, because if it's
yes.
not, then you stress him out to the point where he's sitting there. He's like, I look fucking.
Yes, exactly. That's what, yes. That's, yes, he's trying to take me mirror selfies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that shirt is so, like internally, I'm like, that shirt is so wrinkly. Oh, but he's on this work trip and I feel like, and this is one of my love languages. Like I would love if he would say, Rachel, I've got these 3 things going up on my work trip. Will you fix it? I would say, yes, I would love to fix it. I would be honored to fix it. I would iron. I would be the housewife, Rachel, getting everything fixed in like a little plastic baggie. But no, no. He instead is just shoving crap in his bag and then is like, pulls it out and like, that'll do. But then I'm going to call Rachel. Yes, it's like 20 seconds before he walks out the door. He's finally like, oh, do I look okay? I should ask my like fashion forward wife. No, he does, that's, I'm like, so yeah, I'm not that friend for the record. If you want affirmation, I need to hear that. We talked about that the other day. Tell me what you need. Like, hey, I'm worried about this, but I really like it. Does it look good? And then I'll be like, yeah. Unless it looks really, really bad. But if I just no, you really need affirmation, not an honest opinion.
Yeah, if you like it, but you think everyone else is gonna think it looks bad, but you want to wear it, you wear it.
Yes, I love it. Okay, our next segment is a regular on the show, Release or Recommit. It's a segment where we're going to discuss something that we're either releasing because it doesn't align anymore, we're letting it go, or we're going to recommit to it and learn to and think about, I guess, ways that we are going to actionably put it into place in our lives. So I'm recommitting this week if you want to hear mine first.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So I have reading all of my nonfiction book stack on my 24 for 2024 list, but I already know that like that's not going to be enough to actually get me to recommit to like reading nonfiction, which I have a nonfiction in my life already. Like for instance, and this is an update for anybody who cares. One of my other things on my list was that I wanted to start every day with reading my Bible before I read or listened to anything else. So it may be that like for 30 minutes, I don't read or listen to anything. It may be that I have to like get my mind right. So it's not necessarily that I'm doing it right away, but like I was bad about listening to a podcast instead of like listening to that when I was getting ready or immediately diving into emails on my phone, that kind of stuff. I have had great success with that. And I'm really proud of that. And it's all because of the Bible recap plan. It's a free plan online. Anybody that's interested in reading the Bible through front to cover, it's a chronological plan. It has changed the game on me getting into my Bible every day.
Yeah,
Like
that's
yeah, it is. It's chronological. And so to me, and like it's guided, it has some, like it has a YouTube that goes with it a YouTube video that goes with the reading every day that kind of like summarizes, give you some context, points at things out.
yeah.
It's just so far really hitting home. I know that putting the read nonfiction on my list is just not going to be enough. So I want to recommit to really actually making this happen by, I love a paper list. So, because I noticed in my office, I know I don't do my paper planner anymore, but I'm here for the paper list. I've got a stack in my office. I have a stack in my office downstairs. I have like 3 on my nightstand. I forget how many I have squirreled away that I've collected over the last couple years that I would love to make time to read. So I want to make a list so I know what all I've got. Oh yeah, and I have some on Audible. So I think I need them everywhere so I can say, okay, this is what I'm doing next, and then have a enjoy strike through. But I have been, whenever I have longer road time, strike there. I like a highlighter more than a strike. Personally, I'm a
Really?
highlighter girl. Oh
I mean,
yeah, I love a
I
highlighter.
don't want to see that anymore. Sharpie.
Oh, see, I want to see it. I want to be able to be like, oh yeah, this is what I did. Highlight.
No, I get that.
But nonetheless, and even today I recommitted to this by, if I have like a longer drive time, instead of throwing on a podcast, which I feel like I'm better at listening at while I'm doing the dishes or putting on my, makeup or fixing my hair, I am going to Audible and listening to, like right now, I'm listening to the book on boundaries by Melissa Urban on Audible. So, yay, Rachel, recommitting.
Go, Rachel, recommit.
Okay, what do you got, Makayla?
Okay, so I'm in this season of just like trying to find balance in my life because I have a lot of goals this year. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the major one is real estate. Like, I really want to hit my volume goals. But I
Okay.
also do not want to like work my life away because I also, find myself kind of falling into habit of doing that and being like, oh, you haven't taken a single minute for yourself. And just to keep myself grounded and, have some more sanity, take care of myself. I know that there's 3 things that will help me do that, and that is church,
Okay.
Al Anon, and my social life.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those, I think, have equal priority. The social life part, I've kind of got that box checked. There's a lot
Yeah.
of social things going on throughout the year, but church and Al Anon, for anybody who doesn't know what Al Anon is, you might have heard of AA. So alcoholics, go to these AA meetings to seek help with the disease. Al Anon is the same thing, but for the family members. So kind of the idea is that the meetings are at the same time, and the alcoholic will go to AA, and the family members
Oh,
go to Al Anon.
very cool.
And there, you kind of just understand your situation in the chaos because we all play a role, and you find better ways of dealing with that chaos, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of making peace with it. And I don't know exactly what the magic is, but it works. I mean, it only it not only helps me with the alcoholism, around me and in my life, but in like all other aspects of my life. That's like therapy and
Absolutely.
counseling and, you know,
Yeah.
same thing as church. Like, I just find myself so much more present and in tune with myself and understanding, everything that goes on up here and everything going on with my body and things like that when I go to church now and on. So those are
Yeah, we are called to be a body of believers. So yeah, there's power in church as the people. This Al-Anon makes me think of, I was having this conversation with one of my, well, not even one of my best childhood friend, and we live very different lives, like, and have been in different seasons for years now, but have been able to stay in touch and have stayed committed to being each other's person. And it's like we talked about how there is something, and I think this is the same thing with having like a confidant and a therapist, of there is something special about being able to go to somebody that like knows you so intrinsically or knows the situation you're in so intrinsically that you don't have to spend all this energy giving context. or like catching somebody up to speed. And I feel like that's probably the same way of it's like where if you tried to unpack with me
Mm-hmm.
being a relative for somebody with alcoholism, I would have a tough time relating. You would probably end up spending a lot of time trying to give me context or explaining versus like, you walk there and it's like you can just cut to the chase of things and like there's not judgment or you're not having to provide context or like you're not going to have to protect these people that are struggling with this disease because that they also have somebody that they care about that is fighting this fight, and so it's just like I think there's something special about those situations and it can renew you
Yeah.
because you don't have to spend all this energy just trying to make it make sense. It's like, nope, I don't need that context. Like you just get to it.
And everybody in there has gone through the same thing that I've gone through, just in their own way. And so they're the
Yes.
most understanding people, the least amount of judgment. I remember my first meeting ever, I went in there and just bawled my eyes out. And I had no idea how much I needed that until I did, because it was really just the safest space. And I even do walk in there and I talk about, other things in my life that are just kind of chaos, not related to alcohol. And it's a really great atmosphere, and it's been really, really helpful for me. So if there's anybody, out there needing something like that, you just go online and search up, your nearest Al-Anon meeting.
I love that. I think that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that because I think there's this stigma I think about that we're supposed to have it all together and that there's like no real place to not be okay. And like, my pastor at church, Pastor Denson says, it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay that way. But unless we admit we're not okay, there can't be people that help us figure out and point us into the things that will make us better.
Yeah.
I love that.
Isolation has been
Thank you so much for
actually
sharing.
yeah, thanks. But isolation has been so much, like, that used to be such a coping factor for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really trying to get away from that. So, like, if I feel something so deeply, no matter how crazy I feel other people are going to think about it, like, I just say it. And I'm like, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying this, like, because it just means so much to me. It might not mean anything to you. And then
Yeah.
usually it does. People are usually caring, especially if it's the ones who love me and support me. They're usually
Yeah.
like, Makayla, you're not crazy. Like, you should have just said that. So,
There's freedom and vulnerability for sure. So good. Well, we're going to wrap this up with a self-care tip of the week. So it can be practical, whimsical, it can be one time, it can be all the time. Makayla, do you want to go first?
sure. I mean, I really think
Let me hear it.
do whatever works best for you. Everybody has their habits. I know you're a big habit person. I'm trying to get into my habits this year. Like I said, I want to be more present. A big part of that is getting off the devices for me, because
Mm-hmm.
I work on this all day long, and
Right.
you know, connection and relationships, I feel like, build so much better when you're off of that. So I try to go as much paper as I can, which means I've got this bad boy that I live and breathe by.
Holding up her paper planner.
Yes, my paper planner, I couldn't live without it. And goodness, there's so many out there. Like, just find whichever one works best for you. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're a mobile planner type of person, great, good for you. I wish I could do that, but I really can't, because mobile planners, there's so much user error, like, risk. Like, what if you create an event and you put it on the wrong day? It's no longer,
I definitely, when I got really busy last summer, I don't know what it was. It was all during the summer, but it was, and I know I was busy. I guess that's why I said I was really busy. But I got like it was 3 things in a row I had down wrong.
gosh,
I mean, one day I showed up at the totally wrong time, totally wrong day.
yeah.
Showed up. They were like, "No, we have you down next week or 2 days from now." I was like, Oh, and then the other time I showed up I thought I was going to be late to the Paducah Board of Realtor meeting because in true Rachel fashion, I was using GPS, but somehow GPSed myself to the wrong place.
Yes, I
And then so then I ran and thought I was going to be late. I got there at like, I think 11. It didn't start till 11:45. So I was like, okay, well, I guess at least I'm not late, but I guess I had it down wrong or mentally wrong. Yeah. I mean, one thing I want to challenge you on is set a little bit more of a detailed metric for you to manage your social media it's not your social media, your device use.
yes.
Like, don't just say you want to be on it less. Like, try to figure out, it's like, okay, I'm not going to pick up my phone an hour before bedtime, or that is very, very, very personalized. So there's a million ways to do that. So just think of like one that you think that or try one and then try a different one the next week.
Yeah.
Okay. So my self-care tip is lean into your designated duplicates. Like, get your go-tos and have them placed all the places where you spend time. So for me, I think about my chapstick, a set of headphones, because I never want to hold a phone up to my ear. I'm speakerphone or headphones or bust. Like, you will hardly ever see me actually with a phone.
Yeah, I'm speaker.
Oh, I love a speakerphone. It kind of gets echoey in some places. So like I have AirPods, but truly real, like these like corded earphones at both like my desk at home and at my office. And then like I have a Carmex at my desk, in my bathroom, by my nightstand, in my car, like. And I try to remember, if I just don't move those things, I'll always have them where I need them. So like the Carmex is the big one. Like I bought 5 and I thought, do I really need to buy 5 all at once? But now I have them squirreled away everywhere I need them. And I'm like, I'm so glad, because then the hard part is just remembering, put it exactly where I found it. Like, trust Rachel that she has them other places too. So you can just put it back. So that's mine.
Chargers too. I'm big on like chargers need to be everywhere.
Yes.
Because if I unplug it.
Yes. Well, and Apple really jacked me up when they changed these dang chargers to C's.
Do you have the iPhone 15?
I don't know. I know the one I got has the thing that is not a USB. It's a C now. That I did have that. Yes, and it makes me mad. That's why I'm like, it's jacking me up. But I guess I will persevere. Don't worry about me, friends. Well, Makayla, thank you so much for your time. I'm so
Thanks for
appreciative of you
having
joining
me.
us on how you get there, and loved hearing how you got here.
Yes, it was a great journey, and I'm glad to be where I'm at now. So
I love it.
Thank you for having me here.
You're so welcome. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope this episode met you where you were at, and it's given you your own clarity on steps forward for how you get there. Wherever and whatever that is, it is important and your dreams matter. I would love to hear what you think of this episode and how you get there. You can connect with me personally via email at howyougеттhere@gmail.com, or you can find me at Rach Ross Denson on Instagram, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you love How You Get There, I have a favor to ask. Will you share this episode with a friend and take a few seconds to follow, rate, and review How You Get There wherever you listen to your podcast? Please know you are playing a part in making my dream come to life, and for that, I am so grateful. Don't forget, if where you want to go in the future involves a home loan, I would love to help you. Find me on Instagram at RachelDenson_MLO to learn all about mortgages from my videos, or use the link in the bio to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. I hope to see you back here next week, where we'll keep talking all about how you get there.